All right, we have a lot to get to in this video, so let's just take our time. Let's take it slow and just hang out here for a second. I want to talk to you about the wide receiver that nobody is talking about. Everybody is talking about Isaac Tesla because he's the hometown kid. One of our most viewed videos in a really long time was on him. You guys came out to watch that video like crazy. I still am very excited, but now there's starting to be some of this people not liking the picks so much because of how much we gave away. Maybe the blindness of, the hometown kind of guy loves the Lions is starting to wear off. I don't know. I still like the pick, whether you gave stuff away or not. If you think he's going to be a great player, you go for it. But let's have a conversation first about, we're going to talk about another wide receiver. We're going to talk about some draft grades that the Lions got. But before we get into that, I want to talk to you about the trade that almost never was. We have all this stuff talking about Tesla and the Detroit Lions and the trade that never was. And I was reading a phenomenal article talking about the trade that almost never happened. Michael Silver of The Athletic had tremendous access inside the Jacksonville Jaguars draft room over the weekend. And as he was watching, as the Lions tried to pull off this trade with the Jags, he described how early in the third round, Jacksonville was weighing Detroit's offer with another trade that the Rams had offered for the 70th pick. And the Rams were offering a future second rounder. So they were trying to come back in. He also was talking about different things, who the Lions were trying to get, right? Eventually, they did choose Detroit's offer. All right, but Jacksonville believed that Detroit was after Louisville defensive end. The defensive end that I'm sure all of you would have wanted, right? Ashton Gelati. I don't know how you say it, right? So they're after this guy. They're trying to maybe get him, and then he went off the board at 66. So the Jags are on the clock. The Rams pulled their offer because the Rams did want Ashton Gelati. They wanted him. So they pulled their offer, but the Lions still agreed. And then even at that point, the trade almost didn't get through. Silver actually wrote, at that point, that's when things got dicey. The Jags director of player finance, Tripp McCracken, nailed down the trade with Mike Disner of the Detroit Lions, their COO, and both contacted the assigned NFL reps to make the terms official. However, there was an issue with the league that slowed down the process. There was under 90 seconds when Brad Holmes jumped on the phone and said, hey, are we going to be able to make this deal or what? And eventually the trade got made and the Lions were able to select Tesla with seconds to spare. Now, I want you guys to, real quick, before I get into the other receiver, before I get into some of the grades and all of that kind of stuff, and I'm going to talk about fallout as well of Detroit Lions who all of a sudden, because of who we drafted, there are multiple players on this team that might be on the chopping block that are going to have a really tough road to making this team. So we're going to talk about all that. But before we jump into that, I just want to remind you, Isaac Tesla, even though I really want to call him Tesla, phenomenal athlete. Dude might be battery powered. Extreme speed, size, agility, loves to block. Yes, there is work that has to be done in order for him to contribute at the X receiver this year. The hope, I think, from the team is that Tim Patrick will be the one not holding down the X receiver position, and then that Isaac Tesla will be ready in the following year, but he might be able to get in, play a little bit, a lot of blocking, maybe have him run a deep route, maybe if J-Mo gets hurt, like there needs to be that athletic presence behind that could be there. I do believe they see him as an X, even though he played slot. He's going to have to work diligently on getting off man press, things like that, in order to be good and helpful for us. Now, there was another wide receiver that was drafted that I don't know if anybody else remembers, and it was Dominic Love It, wide receiver out of Georgia. And this is a guy who, over his time, has just consistently produced. I want to show you some of his stats, and he just gets better every single year. Nothing crazy. He started first 2 years at Missouri, then came to Georgia, right? His best year was actually his sophomore year, where he averaged 15 yards per carry, had 846 yards receiving on 56 catches. But each of the last 3 years, he had over 50 catches, and over 600 yards. His touchdowns increased every year. This is a guy who is absolutely a slot. We keep getting slot receivers. But he is the one that is going to kind of fill the role. I'm forgetting his name. The guy who ended up making the team. It was an undrafted free agent last year, made the team as a slot receiver, just a tiny little slot. Eventually, we had to put him on the practice squad, and he was stolen, and so this is what I kind of view as a replacement for that. It's going to be hard for Dominic Love It to even make this team. Like, when you think about it, he's going to have to convince the coaches that they need to keep 3. Now, can he play a little special teams? Yes, but he wasn't a return guy. So, like you see here, and you're looking at it, the odds of him jumping Amon-Ra St. Brown, J-Mo, Tim Patrick, Khalif Raymond, and Isaac Tesla are almost nothing. So what does that look like for him? I don't know. All right. Isaiah Williams, by the way, is the name of the guy that I was forgetting last year. It could be good. He is a phenomenal gunner on special teams. Phenomenal gunner, and that's one of the ways I think he'll be able to make the team because we lost a gunner. Khalil Dorsey is likely the top gunner on this team, but Kendall Vildor is no longer here, so the opposite gunner position along from on the other side of Dorsey very likely could be Love It, and then he could work him way into basically kind of the Khalif Raymond role as Khalif Raymond as he continues to get older. And maybe the Lions think Khalif Raymond's starting to hit the wall. His last year was definitely not nearly as helpful as the other years. Maybe they think he's starting to go and he's starting to fade a little bit on that. But there are a couple of other players based on who we have and who we've drafted that I think could be in serious trouble. You guys all remember Broderick Martin? Like, discussing the struggles of him, I'm sick of doing it, right? But they signed Roy Lopez, right? They get Tyleik Williams. Okay, great, at nose. And then we still have all these other guys. Like, what between Martin, Lopez, Williams, Reeder, McNeil, O'Connor, like, what is Broderick Martin going to do to make this team? And then we can switch over to the inside on the offensive line. You guys remember Kingsley Egakwen, Michael Neese, right guard center? I'm not sure how that's going to work. Like, we just drafted 2 guards that one of them is ready-made. The other one's pretty much ready-made. I mean, he's a 3-year starter. And there's some flexibility. And Michael Neese was there because he could be a center. Egakwen could be a center too. I mean, he played center at Florida, I believe. So you look at those things. Yeah, Tate Rutledge and Miles Frazier didn't really play center in college, but Graham Glasgow can be a backup center. And so if Graham Glasgow gets beat out by 2 of the 3 guys that are behind him, which is Mahogany, which is Ratledge, right? If those 2 guys beat him out, or even Miles Frazier, then all of a sudden he goes to the bench and he's your backup center and your backup guard at both positions. So you don't necessarily need to keep these guys. Another guy that I would think would be on the chopping block is Colby Sorsdahl. They move this guy around. They can't figure out where he's going to be. I just don't think it looks good. Like, what is he going to do? I mean, they're looking good at tackle, right? I mean, obviously starters are looking good, but where's the Manu at? Where's Giovanni Manu? Last year was Dan Skipper that came in. So, like, you're looking good there, and then they try and move him to guard. That doesn't work. What is he going to be? It's just, here's the problem, the only problem that I have. There's been some swings to trade up to get interior players, right? Broderick Martin, Colby Sorsdahl. Colby Sorsdahl was later, so that's not the end of the world. Giovanni Manu. We haven't seen dividends come off of those yet from Brad Holmes. I'm a little worried that it should make you almost worry a little bit about the Tesla pick, but it doesn't, because when you think about the Tesla pick, you think about Brad Holmes and where his strength is. He's proven that in later rounds he can find wide receivers, right? He was the guy that was beating the drum, banging the drum, I guess is actually the better term for it, for Cooper Kupp with the Rams. He's the guy that went out and found Amon-Ra St. Brown in the 4th round. So I'm not feeling bad about the Isaac Tesla. If he sees something in him, I would too. He has a really good eye for wide receivers. Even J-Mo is now starting to play at that same level. So yeah, I'm not worried about his eye for wide receivers. He was able to take Tim Patrick and pick him up. I understand that's a guy that's been around. Josh Reynolds, like all these guys that were kind of like, okay, their career's kind of over and fizzled out. And he's like, nah, actually, they're still a good player. They can play this position for us. I trust him in that. But there's just a little fallout for some of those things. So I just thought it would be interesting to talk about, like, what was this trade fallout? You know, like, it almost didn't happen. And I guess the question would be, would you be happier if it didn't? And we just had to sit and wait. And maybe he was still been there. Maybe we would have traded up, but had to trade less with another team as he continued, not to be there. It sounds like maybe we wanted someone else, but the trade was in place. So we're like, well, we're still in love with this guy. Let's go get him. I think that this could be a game changer for us, and we were already able to take care of the trenches. So that was our next position, not only of need, but like it lined up. And I think when you have a guy like Jared Goff, and I've talked about this and I'll continue to talk about it, Jared Goff with a clean pocket, Jared Goff with the right things around him is elite. All right, not he can be successful. No, he's elite when he has the right things around him. So to continue to find ways to find inexpensive players to be great for him, yep, J-Mo's got his 5th-year extension. So he'll be here this year, and he will likely be here the next year. You can always trade him going off that 5th-year extension too. And so it's like one of those things where, yep, he'll likely be here. But if he's not here after that, this could be a guy that could be replacing his production. And so, like, I love the idea, and then you go out, you get Ratledge, you get Frazier, you find these guys for the future. You got Manu last year, Giovanni Manu, and you're just hoping that, like, yep, we've sealed this lineup, and it's smart financially, and it's fiscally responsible. All right, hey, thanks for watching. A lot of words. See you on the next one.